Hey everyone, today we're going to actually start with some some later 20th century revolutionaries. And I think this is interesting, or not interesting, I think this is important. Is what I meant to say. I think this is important to study this particular time, I guess. You know, this is when Africa was gaining its independence from colonial powers. It was decolonizing. And in the cases of a lot of these countries, they were either aided by, other Marxist-Leninist countries, or they were Marxist-Leninist revolutions themselves. There was some decolonizations that were more like just more nationalists, I guess. Moreover, like for example, Kenya. It was kind of a more nationalist movement against the British. But in the cases against the Portuguese colonial, the colonizers, the colonial Portugal. These, like for example, Mozambique and Angola. Those were Marxist-Leninist revolutions that led the way against those. And so this is, the first president of Mozambique, Samora Machel, who, this is 5 years before Mozambique became, Mozambique, basically. It was 5 years before they won the war against they won the revolution war against the colonial Portuguese. So we're going to read this particular one, 1970, by Samora Machel. And we're just going to read the intro this time, but there's three different sections of here with the conclusion at the end. I might read the intro and the first chapter. I might do that. Or the first part, of it, because there's about three different parts to it. So let's go ahead and read this. This is Samora Machel in 1970. Educate man to win the war, create a new society, and develop our country. Comrade delegates to the second conference of the Department of Education and Culture, comrades, we are happy to take part in the second conference of the Department of Education and Culture because culture and education are fundamental problems of our people, on which the creation of a new mentality ultimately depends. We also believe that meeting and discussing our work and methods is the reliable way of guiding our action. This conference is starting at a time when we are celebrating the most important date in our history. The fact that this conference is taking place is a result of our struggle, of the fierce struggle against colonialism, and the tough and tricky struggle against reactionary forces amongst us. It is a victory of the many who have sacrificed their lives to drive out the Portuguese colonialists and to expose the new exploiters. The conference, therefore, takes on special significance, for bloodshed and sacrifice lie behind it. It was made possible by the clarification and consolidation embarked on amid our ranks. We must therefore carry on the work that has just been started and avoid patting ourselves on the back for victories achieved, forgetting the very great deal that remains to be done. Because our education has been born of bloodshed, it is only right that we should pay tribute to those who have fallen for our country. More than anyone else, Eduardo Mondlane symbolized our struggle to free man from the colonial yoke and from obscurantism. I therefore request that we observe a minute of silence in his memory and in memory of all the comrades who have laid down their lives. This conference has set itself the task of analyzing the work achieved, discovering the errors and shortcomings in our activity, and based on our principles, promoting the implementation of the task entrusted to the department by Frelimo's leading organs. Other documents to be submitted to the conference contain detailed analysis of the work done, of the great deal that has been done, and the vast amount we still have to do. Here we wished simply to put forward a few themes for reflection, which, as they express the preoccupations of Frelimo's leadership, will help us to guide us in our work. After demonstrating the harmfulness of both traditional and colonial education, we should like to explain the educational goals we have set ourselves in relation to the new society we are struggling for. At the same time, it is essential that we establish guiding lines which take into account the immediate imperatives of the situation, the need to unite the people, to deepen our knowledge of our country's society, and environment to advance the war and to reconstruct the nation. Finally, we wish to formulate what seem to us the most correct methods of facing problems successfully within a revolutionary perspective. So here is the first section: education and society. Each society always seeks to ensure its survival through new generations, passing on its accumulated knowledge and experience. However, since society exists within the framework of its structures, its survival obviously involves the perpetuation of these structures, however oppressive they may be. In this context, the education that is passed on, because it is a reflection of an actual society, serves to justify that society, its economic structures, its social customs, its ethical and artistic concepts. In short, the culture of that society. In the present phase in Mozambique, there are three antagonistic types of education, two of them reflecting societies which are on their way out, and the third directed towards the future. So, A, traditional education and the paralysis of society. Although the colonialists dealt a powerful blow to traditional society, traditional education is still the dominant form of education in Mozambique. Owing to their superficial knowledge of nature, members of traditional society conceive of it as a series of forces of supernatural origin, which are to varying degrees hostile to man. Hence the fact that superstition takes the place of science in education. Furthermore, the poor development of the traditional economy based on subsistence agriculture results in the isolation of the community. Taking advantage of the superstition among the masses and the community's isolation, certain social groups are able to maintain their retrograde rule over society. In this context, education aims at passing on tradition, which is raised to the level of a dogma. The system of age groups and initiation rites is intended to keep the youth under the sway of old ideas to destroy their initiative. All that is new, different, and foreign is opposed in the name of tradition. Thus, all progress is prevented, and the society survives in a completely static way. Women are regarded as second-class human beings, subjected to the humiliating practice of polygamy, acquired through a gift made to their families, inherited by the husband's family on his death, and educated to serve man passively. B. The colonial education system based on social discrimination. Whereas innovation and science are seen to disrupt the fossilized structure of the past, conversely, capitalism uses them to exploit men more. The more traditional society fights individualism, the more capitalism promotes it. In that it creates in the exploiter the required mentality for exploiting his victim and prevents the exploited from uniting with their comrades to overcome oppression. In Mozambique, a colonial country, social discrimination in education is accentuated by racial discrimination. Education is reserved for almost exclusively for the children of settlers, and particularly higher education, which is for the children of rich settlers. In addition to its overall purpose of reinforcing bourgeois oppression, colonial education seeks particularly to depersonalize the Mozambican, remove from his people, whom he is taught to look down upon. Isolated by the individualism instilled in him, with no dimension and time provided by his own history, ignorant by the space determined by his own geography, living on imported ideas, deformed by the decadent attitudes of colonial society. The Mozambican is supposed to become a black-skinned Portuguese, a docile tool of colonialism whose highest ambition is to live like the settler in whose image he is created. C. Revolutionary education and the creation of the new man. When we took up arms to defeat the old order, we felt the obscure need to create a new society, strong, healthy, and prosperous, in which men, free from all exploitation, would cooperate for the progress of all. In the course of our struggle, in the tough fight we have had to wage against reactionary elements, we came to understand our objectives more clearly. We felt especially that the struggle to create new structures would fail without the creation of a new mentality. Creating an attitude of solidarity between people to enable them to carry out collective work presupposes the elimination of individualism. Developing a healthy and revolutionary morality which promotes the liberation of women and the creation of a new generation with the collective feeling of responsibility requires the destruction of inherited corrupt ideas and tastes. In order to lay the foundations of a prosperous and advanced economy, science has to overcome superstition, to unite all Mozambicans, transcending traditions in different languages, requires that the tribe must die in our consciousness so that the nation may be born. What I mean by this is that, to us, education does not mean teaching how to read and write, creating an elite group of graduates with no direct relationship to our objectives. In other words, just as one can wage an armed struggle without carrying out a revolution, one can also learn without educating oneself in a revolutionary way. We do not want to form an educated elite at the service of an exploitative group. We do not want science to be used to enrich a minority, oppress man, and stifle the creative initiative of the masses, the inexhaustible source of collective progress. Each of us must assume his revolutionary responsibilities in education. Regarding books, study as tools at the exclusive service of the masses. Studying must be seen as a revolutionary task to be combined with the revolutionary task of production and fighting. He who studies should be like a spark lighting the flame, which is the people. The principal task of education, in our teaching, textbooks, and programs, is to instill in each of us the advanced scientific objective and collective ideology which enables us to progress in the revolutionary process. Education must prepare us to internalize the new society and its requirements. Education must give us a Mozambican personality, which, without subservience of any kind and steeped in our own realities, will be able in contact with the outside world to assimilate critically the ideas and experiences of other peoples, also passing on to them the fruits of our thought and practice. We need a consciousness of responsibility and collective solidarity, free from all individualism and corruption. We have to acquire a scientific attitude, open and free from the dead weight of superstition and dogmatic traditions. We need particularly to create a new attitude in women, emancipating their consciousness and behavior, and at the same time instill in men new behavior and attitudes towards women. We must make everyone aware of the need to serve the people, to participate in production, to respect manual labor, to release creative initiative, and to develop a sense of responsibility. In short, what we want is a revolutionary mentality which uses science to serve the people. Our continued progress depends on the new generation. For the first time in our history, there are children, young people, growing up away from colonialism, away from dogmatic traditions. There is a generation, the first, which is being formed in the heat of the revolution. This is the generation which will be called upon in the 20 years to come to carry on the task we are starting. They are the plant nursery, from which will come the selected plants, ensuring the ultimate triumph of the revolution. In this respect, the task of the teachers and cadres in our education is an extraordinarily delicate one, because like us, they grew up and were formed in the old world and carry within them many bad habits and defects, a lot of individualism and ambition, many corrupt and superstitious attitudes, which are harmful and might contaminate the new generation. Teachers and education cadres must behave like the doctor who, before approaching the patient in the operating theater, disinfects and sterilizes himself so as not to infect the patient. Through constant meetings, through continual criticism and self-criticism, teachers and education cadres must eliminate old ideas and taste so as to be able to acquire the new mentality and pass it on to the next generation. How would we classify a doctor or nurse who contaminates patients, who instead of caring for them and saving them, passes on diseases to them? We must show maximum severity towards anyone among the teachers and education cadres who displays subjectivism, individualism, tribalism, arrogance, superstition, or ignorance. In short, the education cadre, united with the masses, must wage an internal struggle, must disinfect himself, getting rid of the old and wholly internalizing the new. Okay, so yeah, that was part one of this. That was this was education and society, along with the introduction to the speech. And then so next we're going to read the present situation and its requirements. And so thank y'all for tuning in. You know, I'm on Facebook, Marks Saw, Twitter, Marks Saw, TikTok, Marks Saw, YouTube, Marks Saw. You know, reach out to me if y'all want to hear anybody be read. If y'all want to, get something out there. I'm reading constitutions too. Let me know below, or message me and let me know, or just hit me up anytime. All right. Y'all have a great day. Wado, dodara goi.